And we're back. All right, where I left off, I'm talking about bands. Oh, screen went out. Oh, get back up there. And where I left off was the band Widow, which was formerly Cat Z Rocks, and my part, formerly Justice. So we formed Widow, and man, we had a shitload of songs. Larry already had a bunch written, and I did bring Take It or Leave It. I think we did that song. Maybe we did that one. I'm not sure. Um, but I did do, I think I changed the lyrics or something to one thing. Man, I'm kind of foggy on that part. But we had a bunch of cool songs. Songs like Love Maker. Uh, Damn, I need something to drink. We had Love Maker, Talk is Talk, Screamer, Shot for Shot, Kick Down the Walls, Kill for Thrills. There was a bunch of cool songs. And Larry could really write some songs too. Larry, Paul, Chris, um, and their buddies. I got Chris and Paul on my sites on Facebook. Don't know where Larry's at. But, you know, that was a band that probably could have really, really done something, especially with the press. We could have done some stuff because our only show that we did was at the light rail, and they were closing the light rail down. And we got up on stage. They couldn't find anybody to open the show, so they ended up calling in some punk band at the time, and um, they put us with a punk band, which wasn't a good pairing. And that punk band threw a bunch of stuffed animals out in the crowd during their set. And we had the whole setup. We were white faced, like early Motley Crue. Had candelabras on top of the mains there. We had mannequins, painted faces, all that kind of crap. Um, and we just laid into it with Kill for Thrills was the opening song. And we got about 4.5 songs in before all hell broke loose. I mean, shit was flying on the stage, shit was flying off the stage. The candelabras, lit candelabras, were falling into the crowd. Uh, Randall from Justice, he was there. He was with his girlfriend. She was in the crowd. Some guy was fucking with her. He jumped across the stage. Some guys pushed him back. He picked up the stage monitor, smashed the dude over the head, jumped in the crowd to get his girlfriend. All hell had breaking loose at that point in time. And by the end of it all, there was like 13 cop cars, an ambulance on site. And it was kind of those, we could have used it as a good PR thing and ran with it, or just kind of disbanded. And we took the latter, and we just disbanded. I mean, it just kind of imploded on itself, and I don't even think we did. I don't even know how we ended up, you know, saying, "Now this is it. It's over." I think we just didn't call each other. I don't know. I really don't know what happened after that night, as far as that, and that band just kind of dissolved, and that was the end of that. And then on from there, that's '88. Went through a variety. I think. I think at that time, the next band that came along was Angola Grey, which Troy Krebs, he's on my Facebook. He's a buddy on there. He was a guitarist. He lived at the apartments that I lived at, and I don't know if I met him before that or when I lived there, but I know he ended up living at the same apartments with his mom, and I got Colin in that band on drums, and I got Brian Farrell, who was like a grade above me in high school, and he was in Stranger earlier on in my history of music, and we it was kind of a weird mixing because Troy at the time was and Brian was more into the heavier stuff like Metallica and stuff, and somehow we kind of got Angola Grey started, and we worked and worked and worked, and I think we only ended up with maybe 6 or 7 songs that we could agree on to play live. And there were some cool ones there. There was Bottle of Whiskey, Mama's Worst Nightmare, Don't Cry Susie, um, Wine, Women, and Song. And then there was this one, and I should never do another one called this because I've done it in a couple bands, and each time, each time it's just sucked. And it's called On the Prowl, and it was so unfinished, but we played it, and it just kind of fell out there. But we did that show after a couple months, and that just didn't go anywhere. That band ended after a show, and which was very typical of the time period. Bands lived and died in the matter of days, weeks, and months. Um, if something wasn't working, it was like, okay, that doesn't work. Let's find out, is it the whole band that needs to go? Is it just a couple people that need to go? Or do we just need to dissolve it? So bands came and went between, like I said, days, weeks, months. If a band was together for years, that was a feat. And there was only a few that were like that, but they also had different musicians over that time period. So that band went as quick as it came, and from there I had gotten other bands together. Colin was a part of a lot of them, and always ended up with a knife in my back somehow with that boy. So I don't know what his problem was, but always tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I always got screwed in the end on that. But there was still one final band that he would be in with me. So other bands that came and went, we had like Liars and Thieves. What the hell was another one? A Cat House Thursday. But that came after I had gotten together with a guy from high school he was a couple grades below me, Andy Lawson. Great guitar player. He had the chops. I'm sure he still does. He's on Facebook too as a friend. I liked his guitar playing a lot, and he had a lot of good ideas that we came up with. And we had a band that we got. I had pulled in a bass player that had played in, I think it was in Liars and Thieves. He played with us, and all he went by was Zach. He was kind of a mystery. He came from Florida, wouldn't talk too much about his past, so I'm not sure if he was like hiding from something. But we got him, and got this other guitarist named Alex, young kid, and Tommy Jacobs on drums, and we called the band Vamp Nasty. At first it was called Love in Chains, and then Alice in Chains came out at the time, so we're like, yeah, we dropped that, and called it Vamp Nasty with an E instead of a Y at the end of it, an apostrophe. And that band had some cool songs. Another band had a lot of cool songs and potential, and we just didn't go anywhere with it. But You Ain't That Lucky and I Ain't That Desperate, that was a good song. You Take Your Road, Fire at Will, just some songs off the top of my head I can remember right now. But there is a video out there of that whole show that we did. And we did one show at the Boardwalk, 1991, I think it was December 1991. Tantrum was headlining that, and they were an all-girl band. So yeah, we did that, and then after that show, Andy and we were the creators of that band, and we sat down and we were like, yeah, something wasn't working at that show, and didn't want to point fingers or anything, and then we just kind of said, okay, that's it. This one's gone full circle as far as we could go with it. So we let the 3 guys go, and then just moved on. We had the songs still, and we decided to change the name of the band to Cat House Thursday. It was after the movie, the Western. So we did that, and we got this guy named Scott. He was a guitar player, but we wanted him to play bass because we couldn't find a bass player. And we brought Colin in on drums and practiced at Andy's house. And I think I have a tape somewhere of some stuff like Your Dime, My Time and stuff like that. But we were doing that, and I think I kind of was that guy this time that was like, yeah, we're not ready. And Andy was pushing to be ready. And we had a show at the El Dorado Saloon, which I had never played, which would have been cool to play, but shit was happening. And my wife at the time had just had a miscarriage, and I missed a practice. And then Andy jumped my shit, and I more or less told Andy, "That's it, dude. Fuck you. I'm out." He didn't give a shit that happened. And I think I told him what had happened, and he didn't give a shit. So I was like, "Okay, I'm done, dude." And at that point in time, I was done. I was done dealing with bullshit and prima donnas and drama queens that had been going on. I mean, I'm not saying Andy was, but all throughout all the bands that I did or had been involved with, there was always some kind of drama somehow. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm done for a while. So I took a long break, and then ended up having a daughter. We moved to Colorado in '92. I continued to write. I wrote some songs, and another musician that I was friends with, he recorded a couple of the songs. I pinned some songs with him, and he recorded those. And then and I had a son in '96, and then 2000 hit, and I was ready. I thought I was ready to go back to California, so I did. Went back to California and tried out for some bands, and I'd been out so long, so I had to get my chops back up and get to where I needed to be. And then about 2003, I had come up with some songs and some ideas and pictures and drawings for Cry Envy, and I hooked up with who would be the first guitarist of Cry Envy, which was David O'Boyle. And he was from the Bay Area, in Sacramento. He was from the Bay Area, and we did like a 9-song demo. Some cool songs. I'm Your Poison, or no, She's My Poison. Eyes on You. Did another version of Fire at Will. What was the other one? Live Fast. Shit, I can't remember. But there was there was a ballad in there too. But we did those, and then I was like, I passed them around a bit, and I went to Colin. I'm like, look, here's some stuff, and I'm trying to get this band together. I'm going to call it Cry Envy, and here's the tunes that we've got. And like I said, there was 9 tunes. And I said, have you heard from Randall? And I know Randall had been in LA area, and he had been in a band called what the hell was it called? They were a pretty big band. There's some videos with him out and stuff. And Sister Mercy or Sisters, something weird. Mother Mercy, maybe it was Mother Mercy. And Colin was like, kind of, but he wasn't committal on anything on it. And then I found Randall, but in the process of trying to line those two dudes up, David's was out. He was done. He didn't want to mess with it. So then I started searching for another guitarist. And at that time, I don't think he was my brother-in-law anymore, but I brought in Brett Santee. No, he wasn't my brother-in-law anymore. He was married to my sister. And asked him to help out to get it started. just to play the guitar tracks until we could find a replacement. And if he was interested, he could stick around. And I know it wasn't his kind of style of music, but he did. He played it, and we had played from probably November to about February, I'd say. And then we found a guitarist answered an ad, and his name was Linus Oliver. So we said to Linus, I said, yeah, I mean, we like your stuff. Do you want in? And so he came aboard, and Brett left, and we had a bunch of songs, not even the original 9 that I had written with David. We had kind of scrapped those and moved on to some new stuff. And with that, we had most of the first album, all but 2 songs we were playing. And then when Linus came in, I asked him if he had some stuff, and he brought the music to She's Got Me on Her Lips. I wrote the lyrics. And Down Down, also wrote the lyrics. And we got those 8 songs down, there was 9 songs. Yeah, there was 9 songs on that. And went in 2005 and recorded that first album, 2 days. Went in the studio, we had them rehearsed enough. We went in, laid them down, laid the vocals down, 2 days, 2 10-hour days. We did that, and then went to a strip club. So, and we went out and we started playing the Roadhouse. We played, where else did we play? We played the Roadhouse. We played a couple places up in Yuba City. We played some other area. Oh, the Owl Club in Roseville. We were playing just as much as we could get out and play. We were playing almost every weekend. We were playing somewhere with Colin and Randy and Linus. So, and about 2000, I think it was 2006, it kind of had run its course again with Randy and with Colin. And something happened. Something came up around February, and it was clear that Randall was going to quit, and with doing so, or something happened. Maybe we were getting rid of Randall. That one I'm a little shaky on, and or maybe we were getting no. Excuse me, we were getting rid of Colin, and Randall wasn't too into that because Randall was buddies with Colin for many years, and Randy's wife was like, well, if Colin leaves, then Randy's gone. And we're like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. If Randy wants to stay, he can stay, but we were having too many issues with Colin's drinking and stuff, and just becoming a detriment to the band. And like I said, he'd always had something with me. There was always a beef, and I have no idea what the hell it was, but always seemed to be a beef between him and I that he carried, I didn't carry, but it was what it was. So so he left, and Randall left, and then became time to search for somebody new on bass and drums, and at that point in time we got Ziggy, or Steve Kohler, on bass. And then we got Chris Jameson, and I think it's the other way around. We got Chris, and Chris knew Steve, so we got those two, and we went on to play, I don't know, about maybe 6 months or so with Chris and Ziggy, and things didn't work out with Chris at the time for whatever issue. I think he was just getting back into playing at the time. So there was some issues there. Chris is a great guy. Chris is on my site as well, Facebook site. And so at that point in time, we brought in CC. We tried him out, and we took CC. Carlos, he's also on my site. Nice guy too. So I never had any problems with anybody. I try to stay friends with all of them, but issues arise, and stuff happens, over the years we get over shit. Um, so, crap like that happens. So forward till about came about I think June of '07, and shit was going on with Steve, was Ziggy, and he blew off a show. Said he was never told about the show, which he clearly was. So we brought in a friend of Carlos's, or Cece's, um, to do a show to fill in, and that happened. And we told Steve, "Gone, dude. Sorry." And then we started looking for a new bass player, and at that time we got Nodi Bullets, and Nodi was a lot younger than Linus, myself, and Cece. Um, and he was green, but I saw a lot of potential, and I'm gonna say this here, and the guys seem a bit foggy on that, but Linus at the time and Cece at the time weren't down for Nodi, and I'm like, dude, let's give the kid a try, and we'll see where we go. And so I pushed for him, and and it ended up he was the bass player until that lineup dissolved in I think it was February of '08. But we did a lot of shows at the light rail. I mean, not the light rail, at the Roadhouse, at the Kennel Club, and a bunch of other the Iron, shit, what the hell is it? Not the Iron Fist, but the Branding Iron up at Wheatland and shit like that. So we did a lot of shows, and it was Linus, Nodi, CC, and myself from '07 to '08, and we did a lot. In that time, we did another album, which was called "Welcome to My House." We had "Welcome to My House." How could I get a little naughty. Friends Undercover, Kissing. We had a lot of songs. We had 9 songs that were new. We did She Leaves the Lights On again, so that's on both the first and the second album. So we did 10 songs on the second album. Recorded that at Alien Studios with J.K. Northrup on the helms of that one. And that one's not released yet. Maybe someday me and Linus can work that out and get that released. But like all bands, drama happens, shit happens. Little stuff turns into big stuff. And it's just petty stuff that happens that sometimes makes bands fall apart. But at that time, I think our last show was on the Y, and shit just kind of hit the fan, and I was blindsided by Linus, CC, and Nodi, and really the culprit behind that whole fucking situation, again, Colin. So he ended up becoming their singer. They went separate ways. They formed their own band and played the material with different lyrics that Colin redid again. So yeah, I still have issues with Colin. I really do. Just because I've always had his back as a friend, and he's always stabbed mine as a dick. So I don't know what's up with that. Maybe he can tell me someday if he sees this. But so we're going to leave it there. We're going to leave it at March 2008. The last Cryami show with CC, Linus, Nodi, and myself. And we'll pick it up with the new lineup of Cryami next time around. Thanks.